In 2024, the Major John Leroy Haynes Florida Veterans History Program was created to collect and preserve the stories and experiences of Florida's veterans and to recognize the state of Florida's military contribution throughout our nation's history. Through recorded interviews, the Florida Veterans History Program Oral History Collection acts as a living archive of first-hand accounts to capture the details of military service and the voices, memories, and reflections of the Floridians who served. The Major John Leroy Haynes Florida Veterans History Program is operated by the Department of State, Division of Arts and Culture's Florida Folklife Program. Together, we are proud to ensure that Florida's military history is preserved, honored, and shared. My name is Julian Duncan with the Florida Department of State, Division of Arts and Culture, Florida Folklife Program. Today is May 19th, 2025. The time is 8:29 a.m., and I'm interviewing Jim Ness in Miami, Florida. This interview is being conducted for the Major John Leroy Haynes Florida Veterans History Program and will additionally be submitted to the Library of Congress Veterans History Project. Good morning, Mr. Ness.
Good morning.
So to begin, can you tell me when and where you were born and a little bit about your childhood?
I was born in Nuremberg, Germany. My father was military. He was in the Army at the time. And from there we moved to Westover, Mass. From Westover, Mass, we moved to Tennessee, where my mother's relatives were while my dad went to Vietnam. And then from there we moved down here to Miami to Homestead Air Force Base.
How long was, what, you said your dad was Army?
Pardon me?
You said your dad was in the Army?
My dad was in the Army and the Air Force.
Army and the Air Force, okay.
He retired from the Air Force.
Gotcha. That makes sense with Homestead.
Yeah.
How old were you when your dad got out of the military?
My dad retired in 1966. I was 13.
13, okay. So a fair portion of your formative experiences growing up in Germany and kind of around the United States involved
the
being in a military family.
Yes.
Yeah. How did that influence your decision to join the military, or do you think it did?
Well, it did. Yes, it did, because growing up as a military brat, you were always influenced by the neighbors, by the, people that you associated with, and living on bases, that definitely ties into it all. So when I turned 17, I decided that it was time to go into service, and I joined myself.
Great. I want to talk a little bit more before we get to that. I want to get to that in just a second, but I want to talk a little bit more about your experiences growing up in a military family and moving around a lot. What were some things that you found, from the perspective of a son of a service member, were challenges or particular benefits of growing up in that environment and moving around and living in different countries?
Well, growing up as a military child, one thing that I didn't know and found out or realized later in life was that people who are, for example, in the Air Force, as they move, other people move. So you end up meeting and reuniting with the people that you had associated earlier. So it was like a big family, except for, individual moves, and there would be space and time. And then all of a sudden here would become one of your good friends to the next base that you were at, or vice versa.
Did that carry you into your experience being a service member yourself?
Yes.
What was the experience like of your dad being in Vietnam, you being very young, your dad's away in a dangerous place and probably for a long time?
Well, I came from a family of 8 children. And when my dad was in Vietnam, of course, the older ones took care of the younger ones, and I'm one of the older ones. So my mother, how do I say it? She controlled the family and did an excellent job. I mean, she didn't let us get away with too much, because when my father came back, he's a little bit more the disciplinarian because of his military service. And so consequently, with that being said, she tried to run it the way he did, but he was a little bit stiffer.
So, 17 years old, you enlisted in the Army.
Yes.
And what was your kind of early experience of the Army like? I mean, growing up the way you did, you knew a lot about the military, but then going into basic training, going into what were your impressions of that?
Growing up that way gave me some knowledge of how the military worked, but it didn't prep me for boot camp. It didn't prep me for technical school. Those were just things that you have to endure when you first go in.
Where'd you go for?
I went to Fort Jackson, South Carolina.
Okay.
And it wasn't always pleasant, but it was a great experience. It got my mind geared toward the military.
What were some memorable experiences of that training environment? And do you remember any of your instructors, for example, or?
I don't remember the instructors' names, but I do remember the base. It was old wooden barracks, everybody in one room, the trains at the far end. But it was great because, you have a relationship with all the people in the company, and consequently, you gain some great friends.
And then for technical school, you mentioned technical school. What was your MOS and your
I was a 12 Bravo Charlie, and I was a bridging engineer.
what kind of engineer?
Bridging
Engineer.
engineer.
Can you describe that job a little bit and what you did? And
Well, what a bridging engineer is one who knows how to build bridges and instructs other people on how to build a bridge. Not only do we do that, but we also haul the bridge to wherever it needs to go. We had experiences in learning how to operate a crane, different things that you'd never experienced in high school. So that's basically what we did, which I loved it.
yeah, how do you feel that like grew you from being a very young enlistee, having high school experience, and then all of a sudden you're playing with equipment and you're playing with cranes, and did you do any explosives or anything like that?
Well, we did, but that was all in basic training. Like I say, my particular job was hauling, driving trucks, running cranes, and I did all that in Europe when I was in the Army.
So they stationed you.
They stationed me at a place called Ludwigsburg, Germany, and I was there for 18 months because it was at the time, at the end of the 18 months, they were starting to de-escalate because of the Vietnam War coming to an end. So with that being said, they shipped us back to the States. We went into the reserve.
How long did you spend in the Army Reserve?
18 months. I had a 3-year commitment.
Okay, so you finished out the commitment in the reserve. What was the reserve experience like compared to the active experience in your opinion?
Well, truthfully, I thought that the military, when you're active duty, you're working, 5 days a week, 6 days a week. When you're in the reserves, it's only on the weekends. So it's a lot more lax than what is the actual service.
After your 3 years ended, done roughly half of it in active component Army and then roughly half of it in Army Reserve. And where were you stationed with the Army Reserve, by the way?
At Homestead.
Homestead, okay. So after that period ended, is that when you went into the Air Force?
No, I got married, and in 1974, I rejoined the military in the Air Force. I went in the Air Force from 74 to 78.
Okay. What was the sort of reasoning behind switching from Army to Air Force?
Well, I didn't want to be sleeping in tents. It's a different environment. It's totally different. The Army is great when you're young and, you know, you want to get out and play soldier. The Air Force is more, and you know, you have to use your brain a heck of a lot more. So the difference being, you're more responsible at that point when you're in the Air Force as opposed to the Army. I guess that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, what was your job in the Air Force?
I was a flying crew chief.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about what that entailed, what the training was like, what the day-to-day was like?
Well, when I went back into the Air Force, or I joined the Air Force, there was no basic training. They sent me straight to technical school. I was a crew chief, and what a crew chief is he takes care of the aircraft 100%, calls out who needs to come out to do whatever services they have, does all the inspections on the aircraft and gets it prepared to fly. Being a flying crew chief entails not only doing that, but when that aircraft goes to different locations, you fly with it so you can make sure it's prepared to come back home. And that's the difference. But what it entails is, like I say, you have to get all the specialists out there, be it field maintenance or be it electronics, oxygen system, whatever the system is, and then you stay with that aircraft until it's fixed and inspected by you. And not only that, but you have to make sure that all the manuals are up to date and that everything is cleared off of those manuals before that aircraft flies again.
Sounds like a lot of responsibility, maybe a lot of pressure.
Yep. A whole lot of responsibility. But it was fun. I enjoyed it. I honestly can say I enjoyed my time in the Army. I enjoyed my time in the Air Force, even though they were two different ways of going. I enjoyed both of them.
What kind of planes did you work on?
B-52s, KC-135s.
And did you get to go, I guess you went to a lot of interesting places.
Yeah, we did a lot of, well, basically flying around the United States, but we were at Beale Air Force Base in California. We were at Norton Air Force Base in California. We were up at Travis in California. A lot of the trips were into California. As far as the East Coast was concerned, I was stationed at Seymour Johnson on the East Coast, and we flew from there all over. I mean, we were everywhere.
What are a couple of standout places that for you?
Well, I really liked Travis, and I really liked Beale. Those two bases in California.
What did you like about those bases?
Well, number one, they were in more of the terrain. I liked the terrain. I liked the fact that I could get off the base and go and venture. I like to venture. That's one thing I do. And raising my children, I taught them the same thing. You know, a lot of people don't enjoy what I enjoy, but I like to river raft. I like to go climb waterfalls. I like to, you know, I like outdoors, being outdoors, camping overnight, that sort of thing. So a lot of people would rather have a comfortable bed sitting in a hotel, not me.
Yeah, you get a lot of different biomes in California, so I can see why you would like that.
And same thing, and my experiences were great, were very good. My daughter, which I'll just throw this in there, my daughter joined the Air Force, and she retired 2 years ago from the Air Force.
That's cool. What did she do in the Air Force?
She was medical.
Nice. It's a whole line of airmen in your family.
Pardon me?
There's kind of a line of airmen in your family.
Yeah.
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 That's cool. I'm a little bit curious about the timeline here. So you joined the Air Force in 1974. So a lot of your career is taking place at a point where Vietnam is wound down, but Cold War tensions are still extremely high, and you're flying on both coasts. You're flying in a bomber. How did that affect your job, or is it something you thought about when you were in? Were there warning signs that something might pop off with the Soviet Union at any point in your career?
You don't think about those type of things. What you think about is the security of the nation. You know, we have to be well prepared for whatever comes. And flying in a B-52, I mean, they packing nukes, so you knew what your job was before you ever even got on the plane. Not many people are flying crew chiefs, but I happen to be one of them. We pulled alert duties, and that was keep the aircraft prepared to go to war at any given second. And that was an experience in itself. I say I had a good career for the 4 years that I was in the Air Force. I would have probably stayed, but unfortunately, my wife wanted me to get out. And I can say now I shouldn't have listened to that, but I did at the time.
Okay.
You know, family was very important to me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what went into those alert duties? What did that look like?
Okay, what alert duty was they put you in a facility for 7 days. It's called 7 days on, 7 days off, which didn't work out that way, but that's what they called it. So you went to a facility for 7 days, and 24 hours a day, you're on alert. If the horn blows, you have 5 minutes to get that aircraft in the air. And that's not a whole lot of time to put a B-52 in the air, but that was the requirements. So you might be at the gym and there'd be a Hummer sitting outside, and that horn blows, you hit that road running, you get in that truck, you get down to the area and get that aircraft in the air.
Did that happen a lot, or did you practice it a lot at least?
Oh yeah, we practiced quite a bit. They would do test runs. They wouldn't actually take off. They would just run, the cycle, and the aircraft would go to the end of the runway and then come back. And then, of course, now we have to re-prep the aircraft to make sure that it's topped off on fuel, whatever the circumstances were that the aircraft needed, whatever maintenance they came up with in that 10-minute run, to make sure that aircraft was ready to turn around and go again if it had to.
What was the protocol were you guys always within 5 minutes, or were there times where it was 6 minutes and it was like, we got to work on this?
Well, there was a couple occasions where guys didn't get out of the gym fast enough and didn't get there. But it didn't matter, because if I was on one aircraft, once it started rolling and I got it out of its space and headed toward the flight line, I might jump over to somebody else's and help them out to get theirs moving. It was a team effort. Everybody worked together to ensure that those aircraft were ready to go off the ground in 5 minutes. And that's not a whole lot of time when
Yeah, that's not at all. I have a few questions, and I'm trying to think of which direction to go first. I want to talk a little bit about teamwork, but I think before that, as this has just been in my mind, and I'm going to go off script a little bit. I can remember being in basic training and being handed a grenade the first time, and you're going to throw one, but looking at it and be like, holy crap, this could kill me and everybody in this room.
Yes, it could.
And it was like, it kind of felt a little weighty, holding it the first time. And I'm thinking about that, and you mentioned nukes, and I'm just thinking, like, it's blowing my mind just thinking about it. I mean, what did that feel like looking at, or knowing that you had that kind of firepower?
Well, it was something that you would never have to utilize. That's the first thing that goes through your mind. I hope I never have to use this thing. But being a flying crew chief, you're sitting on anywhere from 6 to 8 of them.
Jeez.
And, we're talking about a lot of firepower now. Talking about taking out entire cities and stuff like that. It's hard to fathom in your mind the amount of damage that one of those nukes could do.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit scary, but at the same time, you know that that's what your job is, and you have to get it and get it done. That's what you signed on for. So being a young GI, I mean, it's kind of like going to war without going to war. You mentally get yourself prepared for it and say, if it happens, I have to do this because I got to defend my country and I got to defend my family. And that's the way I looked at it.
I'd imagine not just anyone can get that job. I imagine the security clearance requirements or something is.
Well, not any. That's why I say I was a flying crew chief, and not many people were flying crew chiefs. They had crew chiefs out there that basically helped take care of the aircraft and so on and so forth. But very few of us flew and stayed with the plane. It was almost like an extension of your own arm. Where it went, you went. And, unless they were in training mode, you were flying with that aircraft. I mean, Shreveport, Louisiana was another place. When we took it to depot, I went to depot with the aircraft 3.5 weeks. That's tough on my wife, but it had to be done. So that's what I did.
Yeah. What was the selection criteria for, how do you get to being a flying crew chief versus a regular crew chief?
It's your ability to do and know what has to be done and doing it.
Let's go back a little bit to teamwork. That was the other kind of thing that I thought was really interesting. Another thing that you said that I thought was really interesting. Do you feel like that sense of teamwork? I mean, how do you feel like that was instilled? Because I think it just you're talking about 5 minutes getting these planes off the ground, and you're finish your stuff and run over here and do this other person's stuff. I mean, it's got to be automatic by that point.
It is. You don't even think about it. You just know you do it. You just do it. This is your friend. This is your partner. It's like a family.
Yeah.
You have one brother that falls down, so you go pick up the other brother.
Does that come from training, or
it's from repetition of doing it the same way all the time. The NCOs that were on alert with us, the officers, because it's mostly officers on alert, because they're the ones that do the flying of the aircraft and so on and so forth, navigation and so on and so forth. You see, I guess mentally, you see how they act, and you want to act right along with them. And that's the way they are. They take care of each other. You got a problem, they jump right in and help you with the problem. And they appreciate, and this was one thing that I loved about the service, the officers and the NCOs treated young people like myself who were airmen just like we were one of their crew. We were part of. And when they went out to dinner, they wanted you to go out to dinner with them. Not always, but they included you in a lot of the stuff. So with that being said, I made some really, really close friends that were officers. Of course, we couldn't associate the way I would with another enlisted man, but they were good friends. I knew I could count on them if I needed them.
Do you feel like that's something you've carried into your civilian life, whether professionally or personally?
The way that the military helped me in my civilian life was I kind of raised my kids under the same influence that my father had. You know, he was a disciplinarian, but he also had the compassion to explain why things are the way they are. And raising my children was the same thing. When I went into the construction business, I applied that to the people who worked beneath me. And it wasn't too long after I got out of the service that I was running jobs, because I already knew how to read plans. I already knew a lot of things that a lot of young people didn't know. So I became a leader, and then I became a builder. And there's a difference between a leader and a builder. A leader is one who guides, you know, the young people and teaches them how to do different things. But a builder does both that and also make sure that the building is being done properly. And the builder is the one who also deals with the architects and engineers. He sits down and goes, okay, how we are doing this? Exactly what does it take to get this done? And over the course of last 20, 30 years, 40 years of building, I've built some major projects right here in Miami-Dade County. I mean, big projects. We're talking about the Ritz-Carlton over on Miami Beach. That was a complete demo, and then the restoration, bringing it back to a brand new building. I built water treatment plants. I have built stadiums, chiller plants. I didn't get that much into residential. I mean, I did about 500 homes, but my main thing was commercial buildings, of which now, at the end of my career as a builder, I was doing restorations. And that's pretty much, once they got me locked into it, I mean, I couldn't do them fast enough. I was doing a lot of restorations. Fisher Golf Course Clubhouse was one of my restorations. Redoing the park in front of the convention center, Miami Beach Convention Center. That's another one of my major projects. I mean, and these are all 10, 20, $30 million projects. And that's what I do. I'm a builder. And this building that we're in today is also one of my restorations.
Interesting. Can you describe that a little bit? Because this building has some history.
Well, in 2008, Dr. Atwood came to me, along with a couple contractors, and asked me if I could help restore a building. I had never seen it, didn't have any clue what it was. And I said, well, let me look at it. So they brought me out to the building, and I said, give me a match and I'll end this in 5 seconds. This building is totally falling down. I don't feel comfortable, but I can do it. So they said, well, we have to restore it and get it ready to move. Well, that's strange. You want to move the building? And they said, yeah, we're going to pick it up and move it to a different location. I said, okay. How much time do I have to restore it to get it ready to move? And they said 2 years. 14 months later, myself and 14 guys had the building ready to pick up and move. We cut a whole year off of it. So then came the chore of moving it. There again, they wanted to cut the building in 3 pieces. I said, no. That ain't never going to happen because I'll never get it back together. It won't go back together right. And so they came down and they said, no, okay, we're going to listen to you. Who can we get to move the building? The contractors went and did a bunch of research, and they said, we're going to bring in Browning. And Browning came in, and we cribbed the building up, kept cribbing it up 8 inches at a time until we got it to the height we needed it. Then we put steel beams up underneath it. Every 2 foot crossways, there was a 1 foot thick or high beam. And then going lengthways, there was 2 3 foot high beams that ran the full length of the building, which carried the weight of all of it. This building weighed empty. Now we're talking about like a dollhouse, 792,000 pounds. And I was told, you can't do it. I said, we can do it. We can do it. We'll make this thing happen. So we took it from this location. We put it over where the original hangars to the blimp base were and left it sit there for about 6 weeks. We had to go over railroad tracks, prep that so we wouldn't tear up the tracks. I mean, it was a big job. It took about 4 days to move it. And we got it over there, and like I said, we set it down, or not set it down. We left it there for about 6 weeks, setting up on these trunks, what they call trunks. And a trunk is 4 wheels. They're the height of an airplane wheel, tire. And they have an 8-inch piston is all they have. So you only have 8 inches to play with. And there were 96 wheels up underneath the building to carry it. And there is no reverse on the machine. You have one shot to get it right where it needs to go. So logistics came into play. And that was my job, to make sure that we could logistically put this where it needed to go. So after the 6 weeks, we had the foundation prepared and poured. And they said, we're bringing the building over. Well, I'm pretty proud to say that we have 3 corners that are perfect. The last corner's off by 1/4 of an inch.
That's pretty good track record.
Yeah. So then we poured the stem wall and we lowered the building down on the stem wall.
Wow. That's amazing. I mean, you know, and this building now is a museum, it has its own military history, and it is a piece of history itself, and then showcases history, and to be able to pull off that feat of moving it, I mean, that's an act of historical preservation in itself.
Yes, it is.
What do you, now that you're here working at the museum, can you say a little bit about what you do here at the museum?
What I do is I maintain the building. I maintain the grounds. I do a lot of the hiring of people that we need. For example, the air conditioning people. Because the air conditioning system, last year we had to replace all the second floor units and the outside units to it. This year we've had to replace all the first floor units because of weather conditions. So like I say, you have to get the right people in to do the job. And it's not cheap, but it has to be done. I also do a lot of the building of all the display cabinets. I built all of them. That was part of my expertise. You know, and maintaining, like I say, maintaining the building, putting up the walls. I've pretty much done everything since 2008 on this building that's needed to get done. All the interior builds out, other than the specialties, like I'm not an electrician, I'm not an AC man, I'm not a plumber, but I do know how to do every one of them. I'm an expert in every one of them. But those are not my field. I leave it to the people whose field it is, and I make sure that the right people are doing the right job. Because unfortunately in building, oh, I can do this. Well, where's your license? I have to check all the documents, make sure that they have their workman's comp, make sure that this is done, that's done. Everything's in order from the start to the end.
In some ways, it feels like it's full circle the way you're describing it, because you go all the way back to your Army experience, and you're an engineer and you're doing construction kind of stuff, and then managing a team in the Air Force, and you're kind of combining those two things as a builder and in what you do.
Yes, it is. It is full circle, but it's what I enjoy. I have always told myself, if I'm going to work, I'm going to do what I enjoy doing, because I'll do a better job. And I learned that at a young age. My dad taught me a whole lot of things, mechanics, so on and so forth, but he always used to say, you got to love what you're doing or don't do it, because you're not going to do it well. And that's just the way I am. I like to build. I love to build. We now have this new monument that we just placed, and the foundation of that monument, myself and another man built it, put it together, got the right people in to pour the concrete, got it finished, and prepared for the monument itself. So, like I say, my expertise, truthfully, I probably could have become a general contractor if I would have wanted to, but I wanted to build. I didn't want to do paperwork all the time. That's not what I do. I mean, I do it, I'm good at it, but I don't like to do it. So I stick with what satisfies me.
So what would you counsel or advise, on the note of that? Because I really like what you're saying about you do what you want, you'll do a better job. I like that. I think that's a really interesting perspective. And with that in mind, what would you say or counsel to a young person who's thinking about joining the military, or really maybe not, maybe just thinking about what they want to do next in life?
Well, to me, a lot of young people think they would like to do something until they get into it. And then they come up with 1,000 excuses of, oh, it's too hard, it's too this, it's too that. Anything that comes in life that you're going to really enjoy is going to come from hard knocks. I don't care who you are, because you're going to put your heart and soul into making sure you get it done and you do the best job you can. Unfortunately, in our society today, and this is just my opinion, but too many young people have the idea that, well, I can put it off till tomorrow, or I can do this, or I can do that, or I don't really want to do it, so they get somebody else. Well, that don't get it done. Jump in with both feet, get wet. It's the old saying. So that's what you do. And because I guess that's the way I was raised. You know, my dad used to say, jump in and get wet, and you might find out you like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, to talk to a young recruit today, or somebody who's even considering the military, I would say that I would probably go in the direction of, it's the greatest opportunity you're ever going to have, because the people that you're going to meet, that are going to help you on that journey, they're thinking of you, not the other way around. You're not thinking about them. They're thinking about you. And how can I get them to and guide them in the right direction to accomplish the mission? And that's really what it is.
That's great. That's a great reflection. As we kind of start to close out, I did want to ask a couple of things. Are you part of any veterans organizations like American Legion or?
No. I am part of Naval Order.
Okay.
I'm part of the Naval Order. The Veterans, hospital in Miami. But those are about the only ones.
What is the Naval Order?
Naval Order is like the VFW or the Moose Club, those type of organizations which are affiliated to the military. The Naval Order is keeping track of what's going on with the Navy and how it's influencing the personnel. That's the best way for me to put it, and the retirees.
And what's your role in that?
I really don't have a role. I'm just a member.
Okay. Great.
Because I truthfully, I don't have a lot of time, as you know, or as you have witnessed.
Can't imagine.
I'm here quite a bit at the museum. Like I say, I take care of as many things around here as I possibly can. I meet people. I try to get things opened up and ready to prepared for every day for the guys before they get in, where they take them on the tours. They show them the facility. But if there's something that needs to get done, that's what I do. And like I say, I'm out here quite a bit because I love it. I mean, it's like a second home. And by the way, just so you'll know, this building that we're in was the headquarters building of the blimp base. It's the last wooden structure that was down here. They were getting ready to demo it before we got it.
Well, I'm glad you all got it and were able to
Yeah.
preserve it. That's incredible. I want to back up just a little bit. We're going a little out of order here, but I didn't quite cover sufficiently. Can you tell me just what year you got out of the Air Force and a little bit about
78.
78?
1978.
And how was your transition out of the military into the civilian career?
Truthfully, at the first, it was rough.
Mm-hmm.
Because jobs weren't that ready for more people, and I think that also helped guide me into construction. Because I knew a lot of people in the construction business, and they had kind of opened the door for that opportunity. So it was rough because I already had 2 children, and you're trying to support a family. But we made it through it. We got it done, and so started my career in the construction industry.
Does that experience affect some of your decision to be a member of Naval Order, do stuff with VA Hospital? Is that?
Well, yes, it did, because the first jobs that I got when I got out of the service in construction were affiliated with Homestead Air Force Base. Like I said, I knew a lot of people from that were in the construction business, and they were doing work on the base. And I was in a learning process of, how you do it civilian style instead of military style. So that was the transition time. But it didn't take long. It only took about a year. And then we were kind of up and rolling and building a family, and just that's where I went.
Great. Well, I'd like to ask you, is there anything in this interview that we've not covered that you'd like to mention?
No, I think we pretty much hit everything. The only thing I would like to say is that the gentlemen that I work with here at the building, Dr. Atwood, Tom, Juan, they have a lot more years of experience with the service than I did, but I think mine were just as golden as theirs because I took advantage of every situation I could. So that's my take on it.
Great. Yeah. Sounds like it definitely carried into your life in many different avenues. Yeah. Effective use of time and training and experience.
Well, like I say, everybody's not meant for 20 years. Everybody's not meant for 20 years. And with that being said, you know, the service, truthfully, I would have to say to any young person today, you'll never regret joining the military. Number one, it's going to make you grow up. And it's going to get rid of all the bad habits you have because they don't tolerate it. But at the same time, you're going to have more fun than you could ever even imagine. And you're going to experience things that you can't even imagine. My time in Europe was some of the funnest times in my life. Why? Because I was in the barracks. I was with 92 other people, and we worked together. So you became a brotherhood. My time in the Air Force was the same way. You became a brotherhood. It was great. Seymour Johnson was great. But I guess 20 years wasn't in my scope. Should have been. But it wasn't. So.
Well, I think that's a great final message, and that's all I have.
Okay, we're done.
With that, I'd like to say thank you for your time today, and thank you for your service.
You're very welcome.